Alright, hello everybody. We'll be implementing the Gamepad API in Uno platform. This is kind of a big API. It has a lot of intricacies, and it actually surfaces in Uno UWP in many ways. And one of the ways is this Gamepad class, which contains a state of Gamepad and allows you to check status and check button status and so on. Actually, this API is the main one we will be focusing on at first, but UWP has built-in support for focus, navigation, and so on using Gamepad, so you can navigate through application and focus on things. So I can try it out on some application which is built in, for example, weather. See, if I use my gamepad here, it reacts to it and kind of works, except for some things like dialogues. It doesn't work very well. But if I start it, I can move through the application, navigate to the menu, and so on. So it's built-in support that will be also required to have a full implementation of Gamepad in Uno platform, but that has to come after we get the Gamepad API itself working. It also requires these rectangular focus regions, which are not yet available in Uno platform as well. So we will have to look into that too. And finally, as you can see, the B button does the navigation back through navigation stack. That's also a built-in behavior, and it actually works the same way as system navigation request back button handling. Yeah, so that's an example of how it works. And there is also an interesting thing that the key down API in UWP actually supports Gamepad as well. So you can one of the virtual keys should be somewhere here. Virtual key here. Yeah, that's the virtual key, and the virtual key has the Gamepad specific keys, so you can even observe Gamepad events through these key down events, basically. So it's kind of a like observing keyboard, but it's observing then the Gamepad. So there's multiple sides this Gamepad support, but we will try to focus on one thing first, and that would be the Gamepad API itself. And to start it up, I think the best place to start are these two events, GamepadAdded and Gamepad removed, as those two are basically the main building blocks on which we can then build up our support. So these are just classic static events that you can subscribe to and observe when Gamepad is connected and disconnected with the removed event. And there is also a property called Gamepads, which gives you the list of currently connected gamepads. So these events and this property is the APIs we will focus on first. Okay. I think the best way to start, as always, is to start with UWP and build a test page for this. So just to check if everything works as we expect in UWP, and then we can start to implement these things and compare the functionality with UWP. So let's go to the samples app in Uno platform, and we will create a folder for this. So it's Windows Gaming input, so I will just call it here Windows Gaming. And under this folder we will have we will add a new blank page, and it's gonna be the I think Gamepad Enumeration test. Okay. Right, so this will be a simple page. I will add a button which will start well, it could be a toggle button which will say observe Gamepad added. Remove. Let's see. You can call this. You can have a is toggled. Oh, it's checked. And we'll create a view model for this first. So I'll remove this boilerplate code and let's have a view model here. Class. Okay, this view model will be the home for our functionality, so I will have a private bool is observing GamepadAdded, is observing and then I will have a integer that will show us how many gamepads are currently connected by enumerating the gamepad collection. Gamepad count, for example. Let's do necessary. Oh, it's you have to derive from view model base and add the required constructor. Okay, so raise they changed, and after raising we will have to actually start observing it's going to be the method which will handle this, and the same thing for gamepad removed. Okay. I will have a public command which will refresh the count of connected gamepads. So for example, like this, it will create command. Okay. This will be very simple, so let's implement it immediately. And it will use the Windows gaming input gamepad. Oh, can just put gamepad here and input the namespace gamepads and count. We'll set the gamepad count, and the same here. We have to create the property for it. and we set gamepad and we raise. Property changed. This is good. So with this in mind, we can update the gamepad count. That's fine. And we have to implement these methods for updating the events in themselves. Okay. I removed it. Okay. Like this. It's pretty fine. And now we can even try this first, like just displaying the gamepad count. Then we go with the more complicated thing, which will be the events. So let's do stack panel here, some nice padding, and the third button will be refresh gamepad count, and we will have some display block for this. I will have some text block here which will display when the event will trigger, just so we can see when it happens. And so I'll leave some space for it, and spacing between those. And here we will bind to the model, and we have to create the model. Okay. So here, public view model, and it's gonna be private setter, and there data context changed. We will go and update the model property when necessary. Like this. It should be fine. And now, let's see. Let's make this bigger. Like 40. Should be okay to see. Bold font face. And it will be gamepad count mode one way. Okay. That seems good. And we just need to connect the view model to our test page. So I will do that here. There's a sample control info attribute which does exactly this. I will put it in the gamepad category and add the view model type here. Just type of gamepad view model like this. Seems good. Except it, yeah, forgot the parentheses, and that should be okay. Right. So let's just first try this simple. Oh, I didn't connect the button to the command. Okay. Command. It's gonna be model refresh gamepad count command. Just to make sure it refreshes. And let's launch this. And the first build is always a little bit longer, so probably will finish soon. Right. There is some problem here. So we cannot convert from UI test Windows Gamepad Enumeration test to bool. Why would we do that? I've made a mistake here. I left here xbind for is checked, which doesn't make sense yet. So I will just keep it away. Okay, here we go. The samples application. Let's see what it does. Alright, so in the gamepad category we have gamepad enumeration tests, and there is now currently no connected gamepad. Is that correct? Not really, but we didn't refresh it. So if you refresh it, there's nothing. Okay, what's the problem here? Disconnect and reconnect. Seems like it's not even triggering. Oh, gamepad count 2. That's a little bit more than I expected. I have no other gamepad launched, so let's see what happens here. Gamepad. Let's see. If I refresh, I get this too, which is interesting. Let's go inside. I cannot see that because it's native. Okay, this is 2, obviously. Oh, gamepads. But what is, for example, 0 is wireless. Is wireless false, and the second one is wireless also false. Okay, when I disconnect it, what happens? Gamepad count is 1. I'm not sure what's counting as gamepad here, in addition to what I have connected, because both other gamepads are off. So they shouldn't be triggering this. I suppose it can be some other device which is recognized as a gamepad, but the important thing is that the refresh gamepad count is working and it's showing a new gamepad when the gamepad is connected. When I launch another one, I should get 3 there once it connects. So it doesn't connect, but I will have to pair it manually here. Let's see. It's one of these. This is this one, I think. Okay, let's pair it. Okay, it's connected and it's shining, and refresh goes to 3, and the final one we should get 4 there. Yeah, so it's working. That's good. So now let's go to the GamepadAdded event and make sure it's observed and it's triggered and shows the notification that happens. So I will have to add 2 more. It doesn't require a backing field, so I will have just a simple property there. I'll also simplify this, make it a little bit nicer. For the gamepad count, I don't need this as well. I just need this and gamepad count backing field is not necessary. I can just, you know, trigger the notification after I set it. I go, is not it, change the name of gamepad count, and let's add a private setter here. So this is good, and now I will add two more properties. One will be this, and second will be the same thing for removed. Maybe increase the font size here. Private set, and these methods, these properties will show information about the last invoke of the gamepad added and gamepad removed event. So not triggered. And this one will say the same thing in the beginning, and we shall make sure it is actually updated when the event happens. Let's do gamepad, and yeah, you have to make sure that serve is observing. So we should add the event because we clicked, toggled the button, so the gamepad added event is observed, and it should now give us notifications. And if it's not, we just unsubscribe it. And here we update the gamepad added. Oh, not this, but gamepad added info, and we say add, and then we go with date time set UTC now to longs, no, to string, but which is the format? I never know. Let's see. We'll just keep it simple now, and then we will adjust if necessary. And the same thing for the gamepad removed. Gamepad removed. Ooh. Okay. Here we go. We need to removed, and here we update the gamepad and info, the same thing here. Right, this is fine. Maybe we'll add some notification when we subscribe as well. Subscribed, and we add some notification when it's removed. And the same thing for gamepad added. I will make a special method for this. So a boilerplate. We'll just make a backing property, a backing field for this, and make it just a property with modify property changed. So go like this. I could have just converted it to full property, but I didn't. Oh well. Okay. Let's convert it to full block body and fix this. We will have to initialize. Yeah. Just what I didn't want. I'll remove this. Triggered yet, and here we go. Convert this to block. Also premature reformatting. Okay, erase property changed. And erase property change here. It should be enough, and we should be ready to go, I think. Okay, let's try it. We'll disconnect the controllers. Yeah. Alright. Here we go to samples app. And here we should find that observing GamepadAdded works, but it doesn't. It actually does, but we don't see it because I didn't connect, and I didn't connect the commands either. So let's do checked. Oh, it's not checked, but is checked. Bind model mode two-way, so it's updated in the view model when we click it, and the same thing for the other one. So let's copy it here. Oh, so a small screen. Okay. Right. Don't yell at me. Right. This is good. And now we have to also bind the information about the notification. So GamepadAdded invoke info with one way, and the same thing there. Should be Gamepad removed. Right, let's try it. Right, sample set it is. Go to Gamepad Enumeration test. Not triggered yet. We observe it, and the subscription was added by. We probably accidentally connected both of these to the same thing. Let's see, but if we connect, for example, this guy here, it should give us the notification once it's, yeah. So GamepadAdded at this time. Now it's actually correct. No more ghost gamepad there. One connected, one disconnect, then we should get no connected. What is the problem here? Whatever. Yeah, of course. I did a copy paste mistake here. Removed. That's what I wanted. Yeah, it's okay here now. Alright, samples app. Show us what you got. So observing removed. We have no gamepads connected, and let's connect the first one. Okay. Gamepad connected, and we should get notification now. When we remove it, notified as well. We attach again. Interesting, the removal is very fast, but notifying for addition takes a bit more time. So let's start the second one. Should get another notification there. This one is wireless, the first one is wired, so we can test both of these configurations. And this is this one. Let's see. Oh, I have to start pairing. Okay, it's connected, and we get, yes, we updated with this date, and it's 2 now. And finally we go to this guy and connect it. Another notification should appear here. Yeah, that's a new notification, and we have 3 gamepads connected, and we can now disconnect them as well. Yeah, the first one is disconnected, the second one, and the third one now, it means dropped to 0. I will probably add some updating of the count automatically so that I don't have to update it manually by clicking each time. So let's do it. When the event happens, I will update or refresh gamepad count as well. Just more convenient. All right, good. With this in hand, we have basically a working implementation on UWP, so we can now move to the other platforms and have some fun with those. I will save this. Maybe I will just commit this as the first test page. So let's see, we changed. Why is this changed? It's just formatting, so I will not commit that, but I will commit this. And that's fine. So I will push it as test gamepad. Gamepad Enumeration test page, commit, and push. So that's our very beginning. So now let's go to, I don't know, maybe we will start with Android. You can start with Android. So let's first change the targeting to Android. And let's go. Here we go. Right. So gaming, Gamepad Enumeration test. We'll have to check how the Gamepad API on Android looks, and I actually have opened here Monogame, which is a very nice implementation of inputs, including like touch input and cross-platform keyboard and mouse support. And for that reason, I opened it here to check how their implementation of concrete platforms happens. And in this case, actually, they don't observe the event of the input getting added, I think. I didn't find it here. They just enumerate all connected gamepads each time the game loop happens in the update phase. So we will not be really able to do this based on their code, but we can go to the documentation. Okay, let's go to developer docs, and I found it here, I think. In support game controllers, there was something like this. So verify game controller is connected, and we can observe this somehow. The input device, get device, returns the devices we actually need. But we would like to see when the connection itself happens. Get device. Okay, so on input device edit and on input device removed. Those should be the methods we need. And where are these? Where are these located? In the input device API. So let's see. Let's go there and see what was there. So we will first have to mark the Gamepad API as implemented on Android. So let's go to Gamepad and let's see. We'll definitely need this, and we will implement the gamepads list, and we will implement the events. This is the event for, oh, it's headset. We need this guy. This headset disconnected. User changed, gamepad added, gamepad removed. So gamepad added and removed. Right, and let's copy paste the definitions to our own implementation. So let's create in Uno, we create a gaming folder, their input and their gamepad CS file. Oh, let's go. It should be partial class. So we have the partial implementation from generated classes, and we remove the unnecessary global prefix, remove this, and we have just implementation for Android. So let's do if Android for now. And if define, add and remove. We can probably just keep it simple for now, or we'll see. Just remove this for now, and then we will decide if we want to make it thread safe or not. So I actually have a similar implementation here in sensors, so I will maybe copy it from my previous code. So I have a private handler or delegate instance here, and then I have a sync log, which makes sure that when multiple threads are accessing this, they will not trigger the native observation multiple times, which is unnecessary. And as it's a static event, it's all the more important that we make sure that we don't trigger this observation multiple times. So 100 GamepadAdded, and these two will be then added under the lock, so sync log, and we will do it. Let's see what's the implementation here. So actually we check if this first subscriber, and if it's the first subscriber, then we start observing the native methods, the native events. And I will go to the implementation first so I can see what it does on the native side. So let's do Gamepad Android. This will be the Android specific implementation, also partial class, and it's only for Android. It's actually not necessary to mark this if Android here, as Uno has automatically, it's automatically including only the specific suffix files to the CS approach for specific platforms, but I like when it's done here, because when I choose another targeting, the file is then clearly grayed out, so it's apparent that it's not compiled for this specific platform. So let's see void observe. So I have the same, so it's start reading, so let's just start for example like this, and it's going to be input device from Android views, and that should have some events. Oh no, it doesn't. Interesting. So where are these? On input device added. Oh, it's actually on the activity. Input manager. Input manager seems to have these. Okay, so input manager yeah. So we go to input manager, there we observe this event. But why does it have also these event arcs if they are not used? That's weird. Let's see. It's not in the methods and properties. Be nice sample to have a sample of this. Input manager, not device manager. Some kind of let's see if a specific version exists. Doesn't seem so. Okay. Let's go to input manager. Well, they're not there, so we'll have to probably use the listener for this purpose. Yeah, it's probably the only way to do it. So let's do input manager, input device listener. No. On. And the input manager is part of, how do we get this guy? That's probably part of the context. Let's see. Or we get it as a service. Yeah, so it's a system service. We have to get like this. Is it not input method? System service. Text. Input service. Yeah, that's to retrieve input manager for interactive input devices. So let's do it like this. And we probably have to cast this, and we'll try to make just simple cast. Sometimes it doesn't work. You have to do a Java cast for this, but maybe it's not necessary here. Let's make this an initialization logic, so it's triggered. Ah, right. Initialize this. Right. Doesn't exist. I made a weird name there. Let's create a private static Gamepad constructor, which will maybe not. Let's just make it simple. Here I will initialize input manager. So we'll put it like this. Not make it read-only, of course. Am I blind or what? It doesn't exist in the current context. Why? Of course, I didn't put any type here. So input manager initialized, and we will initialize it first. If input manager is null, and we will initialize it. Right. So all these methods will, the end methods will stop the observing, actually remove the listener from the input manager, and the other ones will start listening. So input manager, listener, input device listener. It's gonna be the listener we want to, so we'll make a special method for this here. Which will go, maybe I can move the initialization logic here. So let's initialize, make sure it's, or let's name it ensure input manager initialized, and then we create a listener. And I will probably make a special class for it here, a private class, which will be input device listener. Will derive from Java object. Oh, included some I didn't want to include probably. Java lang object. And it's gonna be input manager input device listener. We'll implement its methods, and these will then trigger our events. We don't need the input device change, so let's leave it blank, and we will have to, observe these and then also filter to make sure that we are observing only gamepads, which will be a bit more complicated. But let's just first add the attachment here. And we will have to check if it's not already attached in the first place. So let's see, private bool is static attached. Because we are in the lock context, it's pretty safe that we make static flag and just check for it, because we cannot get into this attach input device listener twice. We can get there only once. So if is listener attached, then we just return. We don't need any additional operation here. And if it's not attached, then we attach it. So we create a new one, and we will have to add a custom internal device listener, a link to back to our class. It's actually a static, so we will not need that. We will just trigger the events using an internal maybe internal on GamepadAdded method. It's gonna have a gamepad event arc and internal for removal, and we will just implement these. It's very simple. So for invoke gamepad so the sender will be null, I think. We'll check it in the UWP version, and the game, as it's a static events, so for static events the sender is usually null. Gamepad, yeah, actually we have to invoke this one, which is the backing for our event, and the same thing here. Invoke GamepadAdded, and let's just make it an expression so it's more succinct. Yeah, right. Good. And for these, I will have to put the lock around the getter and setter for both. I will probably have the same structure, so I will just copy paste it here. And so gamepad edit. Not need to log this for now, or we can log it so it's clear that it started. Start. What's the name of our method? Start GamepadAdded. It's not made static, right? Static. All these have to be static. Good. Just make it new line so it's shorter. And let's move this to a new line. Right. That's nicer. And this will trigger the on edit, but we have to filter it. So there will be some filter link logic which will only when we are sure that this is a gamepad device, then we will trigger. So to and when we do this, then we will do gamepad on, what's the name of the method? I thought it was, yeah, it's not static. On GamepadAdded, it will add some gamepad here. For now, it's null. And remove the same thing. So there will be some shared logic between those to not only check if the device is a gamepad, but also construct a gamepad instance that will back this gamepad. Attach input devices, we can implement this now. So we can take our, we will have to store this listener. We have a listener for it here. So let's do listener, new, put device listener. And we just register it for the input manager. We have no handler. This will register it, and for the deattach, we'll do the same thing in reverse. So static void attach. And we just have to make sure that we detach it after both gamepad removed and GamepadAdded have been finalized. So we will have to probably track this. We will detach only if, yeah, okay, let's do it like this. we don't need the is listener attached. We will track it automatically, and we will do game. Let's see, what's the name here? Yeah, I didn't make it static as well. Static. So both these will be useful, as we will check if null and if both are null, right. We can't log here because we don't have an instance to log on. So let's just keep it without logging now. But the bigger problem is we don't know if we start observing, then one of the events have to be null and the other is not. Oh, right. Can just do this. If listener is not null, then we are listening, so we don't have to continue. And if it's null, then it was removed here. And in the detach, we will actually do the check. So we'll first ensure. No, we will check first if GamepadAdded can move the check here, so it's consistent. And we will check if this is null. And GamepadAdded is also null. So if both these events are now null, we don't observe anything, and we can actually continue with our initialization. I will use braces mode here, and the same thing here. But I will flip the condition so I can just finish the method early and remove nesting. So GamepadAdded is not null, and if any of those is attached, we shouldn't detach the actual input device listener. So we return, and if both are null, it means we actually don't have to initialize, as we cannot detach something which was not attached. So input manager has to be initialized now, and we just unregister the listener. Listener and it's now, and we will also nullify or dispose the listener, and then we know. So we dispose the listener. Good. So we'll dispose it and nullify it, and then the next time we attach, we will have the listener ready. Okay, and we will attach this to both of the gamepad methods. Good. So that's pretty good, I think. Now in the general class, I will have to finish these, which means GamepadAdded. We will remove the listener if GamepadAdded is null, and we will end GamepadAdded. Like this, and the same thing here. So we just replace added, removed. What? All right. Yeah. Like this. Good. And this block here will go here. It cannot be easily used as this is event specific. Otherwise it should work the same way. Okay, so I have both events ready and protected by the sync log, so no one can no two threads can enter any of these removal edit blocks at the same time, so we'll save here. Right, and now we have to implement the filtering logic to make sure that the input events we observe are only for the gamepads. So let's go and see how that's done. It was actually in the documentation there. So support multiple game controllers. You get the device ID, and based on this device ID we can check if the device is a gamepad. Let's see here. So we can go make this input device get device to retrieve the device and then check for the gamepad functionality. So let's do this. So input device. Now we have only input ID, so device ID. We'll probably have to check if it's not null, if it wasn't disconnected right between the method was called. And the default return will be false. And we check if the capabilities of the device match a gamepad. And that was here as well. Sources. So we go for sources and input device source gamepad equals input device, or we can go like this, has flag. That's much nicer syntax. So we check if the sources of the input device supports gamepad flag, and it's gonna be removed, so we use input source type enum. Input source type enum. Input source type enum. That's nicer as well. So we check if it's a gamepad, and if it's a gamepad, we will return true. We can actually construct the gamepad itself here. Maybe let's do it so it's simpler for us. I will for now create the constructor here, maybe we'll then move it somewhere else. Device ID, for example. Let's call it native device ID. Create a field for it. So this will be the ID so that we can identify which gamepad is which, and we'll have it here. So this method will actually return gamepad. Let's make it like this. Try create gamepad, and we will have an out parameter of gamepad. This is a nice pattern to use. You can just initialize it to null. We will check if it's an actual gamepad, and then we will initialize it to true and set the device ID here, and this way we can then do something like this. I create gamepad, like this, and now we can actually make the notification. And the same thing for name can be simplified. Yeah, we can simplify it. Yeah, and for the same thing here, we create it and on gamepad remove. Probably we will not create it here. We'll just check a collection of gamepads. If we already have this one, we'll have to return the existing instance. So there is the compatibility of references. There is this list we will have to maintain of our gamepads we created. But for now, let's just keep it. For example, here. Get gamepads. Get gamepads internal. It will be for each platform its own implementation. Good. For now, let's just return this gamepad, just to keep it simple and to be able to see our results, at least the event handling in action as soon as possible. I will probably put a breakpoint here and here, or we don't need it. We will see if it works or not. And input manager, this is fine. It's returning gamepad. And this guy has to be static. Static. And yeah, right. It seems like it's ready to test. And I will use my phone here. I hope I will be able to connect the screen. So let's go here. Good. Pretty sure there will be some there'll be some errors. Actually, it seems it's fine so far. We'll see, maybe it compiles without issues. This coloring of output in build, it's there's a very nice extension for this. It's VS color output. a wonderful thing. It helps you instantly recognize if there is an error, and these green ones are success messages and so on. And there is an error, and this error says there is an overload that accepts this delegate. Yeah, that's because there is a difference between the UWP and Uno API currently here. It uses a different sender type, but that's fine. That should now compile. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat. I will answer them as possible. In the meantime, I will check how we will be able to check for the devices to see which are. Actually, I will. It seems like we will have to get all device IDs and enumerate over them, and just select those which are gamepads to get the instances we need. Yeah, that seems like the most likely scenario. I just hope the device IDs are stable. And it would make sense for them to be stable, as there are multiple input devices, and if they were not stable, it would be a mess. It seems they are using as the main identifier here, so it should be okay. Oh, we're running. Let's see. Gamepad. Enumeration test. There are no gamepads, but we can enumerate and observe those. And let's see what happens if we connect one. Okay, GamepadAdded. We can see the date there, and if we now disconnect it, we should get the notification about it being removed. Which didn't come for some reason. Again, the connection works, so let's see if we get a notification in the implementation. So it should happen here. Yeah, so it's triggered, device ID is there, but we probably won't be able to get the device if it's connected. It's not connected, so we can't get it directly. So we'll have to definitely cache those devices so we can check if the device was connected and the ID matches, so that we can check if it's gonna be removed. So let's do it now. We'll make a private gamepad. A list of gamepads. Gamepad cache. That seems more like it. So this gamepad cache will be updated whenever we enumerate gamepads and also be updated whenever a new device is added. So let's do it like this. So for each I have to keep the ordering the same all the time. That will be probably challenging. And just first do it simply. So let's for each device ID, we'll check if it's a gamepad. This check I will refactor to a method because it's going to be useful in more places. So let's do it like this. Let's make a private is gamepad device. So wordy. So let's do it so simple. Is gamepad, and it's gonna check if the sources contain gamepad flag. And we will use this here. And we will use it also here. So we will create the input device. And if it's a gamepad, then we will add it into our result list. And I will probably clear the cache here. Or we do not clear it? I'm not sure now. Let's do it like this. If we have a input device, we have the ID, we have to make sure that it's in the list, in the cached list, because we need to create it first. Maybe we'll have to take this method out as well, as we will need it in the main class. And yeah. We'll use this native device ID to compare those two lists. I'm thinking about how to proceed now. So in the input device removed method, we need to be able to access the gamepad which is cached, and unless it's cached, if it's not cached, we cannot even produce the notification. So we will have to use the gamepad cache. That's fine. So let's do any. Oh, first default gamepad native device ID. The first one which matches our ID we will use. So that And if gamepad is not null, it will notify it being removed. And we also have to remove it actually. So we remove it from the cache. And that notifies its removal. And the same thing here. After we create it, we have to add it into cache. And the try create gamepad method will have to check if the gamepad actually doesn't already exist. So maybe try get or create gamepad is more of a suitable name for this. Try get or create. It will first check if let's make this a dictionary in the gamepad, so it's easier to ask for us to check if a gamepad exists, and it's also easier for us to order them in the same way each time we request them. So for each gamepad in the cache, we will so when we create a new one, we check if try get value device ID out gamepad. So if the gamepad is already known, we return true and we just return the gamepad which is already there. If it's not there, we will create a new instance. Actually, if it's a gamepad, so we will first check if it's a gamepad, then we create a new instance. And then here, yeah, we have to actually add it into the gamepad cache. So here we add for the device ID, we add gamepad. And finally, in the get gamepad's internal method, we'll have to synchronize those two collections, the one we have in cache and the one which exists in the system, because the application could have been tombstoned and didn't get the notifications, and we don't have those instances. So we'll have to create instances for gamepads which were created when we are not checking, but we also have to remove those which were removed when we are not checking. So we have to probably do it two ways. So let's do it like this. Adds a specified key, it's the SV device ID. And yeah, we don't have to do this first on default now, as we have a nice try get value. Try get value device ID out gamepad. Good. And we remove not the device itself, but it's the ID from the cache. And finally here, now we have to take cached keys to array. So we first make a snapshot of what we have. Then we will have to go through all connected devices. So input device, get device IDs. This will get us all connected devices, and for device ID in connected devices, we know that we definitely can remove those which are not connected, so we will do that. Except here are the disconnected. And all these keys we can remove. So gamepad cache, remove keys, disconnected devices. And so remove disconnected. And now add newly connected. And actually we don't have to get the device here, as we just need to populate the gamepad cache, and the try get or create gamepad command will make sure that will happen. So we will just use the throwaway syntax here, and that should make sure all connected gamepads are in the list. And now we can just return those. So we will return gamepad cache values, and we will order them by their native ID. That seems reasonable. Right. So this way we should have a list. Let's make it an array. And this should give us the list of gamepads properly. All right. I hope I didn't make any stupid mistake here. Here we go. Enumeration. We observe events, and we have 0 connected gamepads. That's correct. Now let's see what happens if we connect one. All right. So item with the same key was already added. I don't want that to happen. We actually do add the gamepad to the cache automatically, so we don't have to do it here. Maybe we will have to get it out of this and add it manually. It makes more sense that the method does only the creation of the gamepad, not the adding itself. So I will put it here, and I will have to also put it in the enumeration. So I will do it like this, and then we add so it's not contained, we will add it. And we'll probably do the same check here, just to make sure we don't do duplicate addition. But we notify, because the device could be removed and added again, but with the same ID, and we want to know that it's actually new. Right. Let's run it. Right, we are running again, so let's take this and go to Gamepad. So we have one connected Gamepad. That's correct actually, because I have this guy connected. And let's see what happens if I remove it. It should now be removed. Yeah, Gamepad removed. And now we should get it back. Gamepad added. Perfect. And the second one, let's connect it. Should be this one. Yep. Okay, 2 connected. Good. So 2 gamepads are connected. When I turn off the Bluetooth, I get 0 again. Perfect. So that seems like a functional implementation of Gamepad Added and Gamepad Removed on Android, which is the basis of everything else, I think. Now we will push this and we will continue on the other platforms probably next time. Okay, we have made some changes here, which was, yeah, that was the data context change, and this is a fake change. Yes, so we just need this, this, and this. Okay. Wait. Right. Let's push. And that will be it. Right. So that was the first step towards UNO Platform's Gamepad implementation, and our plan for next live stream will work on iOS and macOS, because those two will have the same API, and then we will tackle WebAssembly as well, as there is a JavaScript API for gamepads. So a lot of things to do and a lot of fun to be explored. So thank you for joining me and see you next time.